A very warm welcome. You're watching Biggest Exclusive tonight. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. It has been a day of reckoning for Sri Lanka. The island nation has been plagued by anger and protests for more than 3 months now. This over the corrupt and ineffective governance which has pulled down the nation's economy to rock bottom. Public fury has finally forced President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee the island nation and go into hiding in Maldives. Though the man in the eye of the storm shows no remorse, he has refused to resign yet and instead has deputized his puppet Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to take charge in the interim. Ranil's first move was to impose emergency in the country as he called out the protests, promising action against those on the streets. The protesters, though, are in no mood to go home. They stormed the Prime Minister's office and took over the premises just like the way they took over Gotabaya Rajapaksa's official residence on Saturday. And before we get into what has led Lanka into this state of crisis and chaos, and if the country can be rescued, here's a timeline of what panned out. Let's quickly get you all the entire timeline. We begin with the wee hours of today at 3 a.m. Gotabaya Rajapaksa flees Sri Lanka. He leaves for Maldives, and at 11 a.m. the protesters were marching towards Ranil Wickremesinghe's office. Tear gas was fired upon. This was the time when there was still heavy police and army deployment outside the office premises of Ranil Wickremesinghe. There were thousands and thousands of protesters swarming onto the streets at 11 a.m. Next, let's have a look at 40 minutes later. At 11:40 a.m., Wickremesinghe made as the acting president. Remember, by then, Gotabaya Rajapaksa had already fled the country, and at around 11:40 a.m., Ranil Wickremesinghe was made or appointed as the acting president. At 11:45 a.m., the state of emergency was declared in Sri Lanka. As we all know, there's been anger, there's been much anarchy on the streets already, and in the afternoon, at around 1:45 p.m., Sri Lanka's national TV goes off air. And this was not just the state television that went off air. Another TV channel was also put off air. And shortly after that, around 2:15 p.m., the state television's transmission, of course, went down at 2:35 p.m. Protesters took over the Prime Minister's office. This was the big moment when all those protesters who had been swarming outside the Prime Minister's office finally went and stormed inside the Prime Minister's office. And with that, we open the big question. Rajapaksas have fled the island, which is now drowning. Can Sri Lanka be rescued? This is the big question we are posing to all our viewers today. And before that, let's have a quick look at all that's transpired today in Sri Lanka.
Protesters who've been stationed here for 96 days, and they are still waiting for the official resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. You can see these are the scenes unfolding at the Golface from midnight till now. Chorus for Gota, go home. Whenever protesters outside the Prime Minister's office, they try to storm the gates. Or tear gas is being fired.
right, CNN News 18 continues to be the only channel which was reporting minute-by-minute updates from inside the office of the Prime Minister when the protesters were storming in, and doing that is our correspondent Purnima Murli, who continues to track all the latest, and for that I'm also going to cut across to her, who is also stationed right now. Purnima, what is the latest that you can bring to us? What is the status of those protesters? Also tell us, should we now expect the resignation to be announced anytime soon? Because going by what the parliamentary speaker had to say in the afternoon, he said that Gotabaya Rajapaksa's resignation will be announced in the evening.
Well, we are inside the Prime Minister's office. You can see that protesters have stormed the place. A few things have been damaged. This window glass here, the door glass here, is one of the things that's damaged. This is the living area, and you have a statue of Buddha inside. And if I can ask my camera person to show you the damages here, one of the glass pieces here was damaged. It was later cleaned when protesters tried to storm the place. And if you go further inside, there is a conference room, and this is the conference room where meetings were held, where discussions were on to see how best the Prime Minister, along with the committee that was set up to look into the essential commodity shortage, those discussions were happening here. So this is the conference room, and we can go to the first floor to see where the Prime Minister's office really is. But you know, you've been protesting here. Has the security beefed up here? Is the security?
Yes, they have come here. They are like beefing up, and we can see many security forces, armed forces are going upstairs, and we really don't know what's going on actually, but we will never give up our fight. We want our freedom back, and we need our money back, the stolen money back. And right now in the Prime Minister's office, many armed forces are going upstairs and they are teaming up. We don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, let's keep our fingers crossed, and let's see what's happening.
Yeah. So many protesters say that they will continue to protest till Ranil Wickremesinghe resigns, and we can also go to the first floor. You can see the public, they are now trying to enter the Prime Minister's office to get a glimpse of what really is happening. What is there on the first floor? How many times have you visited the first floor?
More than like 5-6 times, because we were allowed to come here only today. Like today we have stepped into this
Are
place.
there any
only
damages?
today.
Any items destroyed?
No damages at all. The protesters, they are trying to protest, like without any vandalizing stuff, because this is public's money. This is not theirs. So nothing is vandalized. See, they have put ropes and everything. They are not allowed, like people who come here to watch, they are not allowed to go this way. They are not allowed to touch anything. They are just allowed to see what's here and what's the luxurious life they've been living. Of all
And
these
where
years.
is the Prime Minister's room?
The room? Hold
Before
on.
I could ask you that question, you can see that there are security personnel also deployed inside the Prime Minister's office. And outside as well in the veranda. You can see heavy police deployment inside the Prime Minister's office. Even as protesters continue to enter the building, heavy security personnel deployed inside as well as outside the Prime Minister's
chair.
office. And this is the Prime Minister's room. This is where the Prime Minister's chair is. This is the place where, this is also the Prime Minister's room, and you can find this too has now become a tourist spot. Apart from Presidential Palace, Presidential Secretariat and Temple Trees, now Prime Minister's office too has now become a tourist spot. There are volunteers